So you've just built a awesome lab, hired a team of scientists, and now you have to figure out what research project you want to task them with completing. There are so many options out here, but which ones are really going to give you the most benefit? What should you grab first out of what is available? Well, let's get into it. So in this video, I want to talk about which research projects you want to go for first at every available tier of research. The way the tiers unlock is that at the very beginning of the game, you have access to tier 1, and then once you complete 3 research projects, you get access to tier 2 research projects. Then you have to wait till you progress to a certain stage in the campaign to have access to the tier 3, and then tiers 4 and 5 have projects that will require the quantum chemists. So again, you are locked into waiting to progress in the campaign to a point where you have unlocked those higher tiers of science minions. Being able to unlock these guys are what going to give you access to those final levels of research projects. I also want to say up front here that I'm kind of dismissing the entire traps tab for the purpose of this video. Now, traps here are great. Being able to deal with agents with the increasingly hilarious traps are awesome, but they're not something that you're going to want to rush as soon as they become available to you. They are more of a luxury item for the purpose of this kind of strategic look at research. You can always just fill space with lower level traps, and then once you have the time to complete these researches, you can upgrade what you currently have. Okay, so what is the very first research project that I recommend you do in a game? The game is going to suggest you take larger storage bays, and this is absolute garbage because it's going to cost you the same amount as if you were just to place down the lockers to give you an extra 10 minions. So I don't think that any of these are very efficient. I'm honestly embarrassed that I've researched them at all on this save. And what I recommend instead as your very first research project is to go for the Genius Improvement Program Stage 1. Especially if you are not playing the tutorial, the game is going to be hitting you with waves of agents right from the word go, and you're going to want to use your genius to help take care of those encounters, defend your base from the very get-go. So being able to give them the best stat line possible is going to be pretty nice. So I'm recommending that as your very first take. You could also potentially go for one of the club racks and kind of shore that up for the future. They are pretty useful, but those are what I recommend taking very first. Second research project, and this is actually the best, the most beneficial research project out of tier 1, is improved mining techniques. This is going to open up a lot of base building options in the beginning, help you build a much more efficient layout from your initial placement, and so this is really great. The only reason that I'm not saying to go for this first is because it requires you to use the impact analyzer, and this is a $30,000 piece of equipment, and it costs 10 power, which means you're going to have to place an entire generator just to power it, which is another $3,000 on top of that. So in the very beginning of the game, that is a big ask to be able to place down that kind of equipment. If you can swing it and then you can go for the improved mining techniques as your very first research project, definitely do so. It's going to be the one that gives you the most benefit, but I'm saying do it second because that's going to give you more time to build up your criminal network, start running some schemes to have enough cash to build up the lab equipment to be able to do this research. Our third research project out of tier 1 is Computer Console. This gives you access to the Computer Console, which will allow you to begin generating intel. This is not going to give you a immediate benefit. It's kind of a middling upgrade here, but it is essential for getting into the very best upgrade of tier 2, which is the upgraded criminal networks. And that's why we're going for it as our third option, because once we complete that third research at tier 1, we get access to tier 2, and we immediately need to be able to get upgraded criminal networks. The difference between having a level 1 network and a level 2 network is absolutely night and day. Keeping in mind that the level 1 schemes are $10,000 to $30,000, we're going to look at the schemes here on the level 2 region. This is kind of the most generic level 2 region, and so you have a quick scheme here that gives you $30,000. It gets it to you a lot faster than the level 1 scheme that gives you $30,000. And then the slow scheme here at level 2, 3 scientists for $120,000. The efficiency on this scheme is incredible. And these are advanced minion types, but being able to build those advanced minion types, their training doesn't take very long. Their equipment is not super expensive. You're going to be able to send out those minions pretty easily. As a bit of a tangent, I highly recommend building some early criminal networks in South America, because then you get access to stuff like this. 6 scientists for $300,000 over the course of an hour. This is just amazing. You can max out your vault with a single level 2 criminal network in South America to carry you pretty much all the way into the mid game. It is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. The second research project that we're going to go for here in Tier 2 is the nuclear generator. This is going to help you upgrade from just the basic generators that you've been using, be more space efficient in your power generator room, which, trust me, is going to take up a lot of space, and so you want to have as efficient a generator as possible to keep this from just completely dominating all the floor space that you have. Once we've picked up both of those, there's a number of different directions we can go. A lot of the Tier 2 items are very valuable, and so they're pretty balanced, and feel free to go after whatever sounds the most useful to you. If you're trying to stockpile a really large vault, the safe rack is going to be a big improvement over just the floor pallets. If you want guards to be continuously stationed around the entrances to your base and, say, prison and vault, you like the idea of having them in these key areas, the advanced guard post is the way to go. The initial guard post I think is garbage, that it only works when you're on high alert. The advanced guard post should be the only guard post you use. The brainwasher here is going to be important for some missions later on, so it's going to be essential that you grab this at some point, and getting it going when you can capture agents and then convert them to your side, I found really useful. Both of the gun options here are great upgrades. Being able to give some of your guards ranged weapons is a huge boost to your security force's effectiveness. Now, you don't want to just replace the club racks, you want to still have a balance of having guards in melee and at range, because then you can kind of slow the agents down, because the agents themselves are less effective when they are in melee, but then your guards, being able to add in range attacks, are able to support without all having to be clumped up into melee. The Genius and Henchman improvements here are pretty good, and that kind of rounds out the set of research projects that you really want to grab first. The rest of these are really not very remarkable. Again, the improved minion cap, not useful. Over here on the global operations, being able to improve your signal strength just through the research projects, I find absolute garbage. You can build the items that improve this for as much, if not less, than these research projects. So the only thing that you're saving here is space in your lair, and I haven't found space in my lair to be that much of a limiting factor to need to grab these. The lookouts here that are going to decrease the rate at which heat builds are fine. They seem like they offer pretty negligible effects. I haven't seen that they make all that much of a difference. Same thing with using the big screens. I don't see too much difference when I've got these running, so I think that you can kind of take those or leave them. And then these final items here on the layer tab, they are fine, and they lead to chains of other items that are going to be pretty important later on. So go ahead and round out the rest of your tier 2 research, just because everything feeds into other things. But hopefully that gives you an idea of what to grab first. Okay, tier 3 opens up. What do you think we go for? Level 3 criminal networks. It's just that simple. If you can upgrade your criminal networks, you definitely do so. I'm going to use these two regions here in South America as a comparison of the difference between a level 2 and level 3 money-making scheme. Again, the level 2 scheme was 300,000, costing you 6 scientists, and you get your take over the course of an hour and 10 intel. For level 3, you get $700,000 for 3 biologists. So you have to spend fewer minions, but they are a more advanced type, and then you're getting it over the course of an hour, 45 minutes. So you're still making more money per minute, and you're making a larger sum overall, so there is less micromanagement. It is costing you more intel as well, so you're going to need to have those facilities built up to be able to keep on generating intel to help you run these more advanced schemes. The upgrade from Tier 2 to Tier 3 criminal networks is not as big as from 1 to 2, but it is still very significant. Highly recommend going for it first. Staying here on the Global Operations tab, the next research project I'm going to recommend that you go for is the Advanced Radio Repeater. This is going to give you an enormous space efficiency upgrade to your control room because each of these is providing 2 broadband strength as opposed to the generators, the radio repeaters, 1, and they take up less space. So you can build these in a pretty space efficient manner, and they help boost your signal strength so much to be able to have those higher level criminal networks all over the world. The third research project I'm going to recommend you go for is advanced mining techniques. This is going to open up a ton of base building options and base expansion options. I neglected to mention stairs in discussing Tier 2. They're fine. They open up the extra floors of your base, so it might feel like they're going to give you a big advancement in terms of where you can start building, but those extra floors are usually locked up by the harder forms of rock, and so this is really where they start to open up as options for you to start expanding into. The other pieces of tech that really stand out to me here are the luxury beds. These can completely replace the bunk beds that you have before, so basically instead of 2 minions sleeping at once, you're only going to have 1 because they don't have to sleep as long. Their uptime for doing jobs is way higher with the luxury beds. Definitely worth upgrading to. Also incredibly efficient, the Super Serum Machine, allowing you to improve your muscle minion vitality to 100 instead of 50, is going to make them so much more efficient in combating agents. This is a wonderful upgrade to grab. These staff upgrades here are nice. They're another weapon upgrade that you can grab. Just remember that they are not completely replacing your club racks, because here, as you see, the users for the club racks include the basic guards, but then if we go over to the club racks, those get cut out, and so do the hitmen. So only your mercenaries and your martial arts masters are going to be able to use the staffs. Getting the extra henchman stats is also always nice, though not a super priority. And down here we have the different protocols. We start out by being able to get the distract protocol, then capture, then kill. I find the only ones I use are distract and kill. I can pretty much skip over capture, so you need it to be able to get to kill. But what these do is they save you micromanagement of tagging agents on your own, and it's just kind of a convenience, a quality of life thing. Okay, Tier 4 opens up. What are we going for? For the first time, even though level 4 criminal networks, a upgrade to our criminal networks is available, I am going to say don't go for that first. Instead, pick up your fusion generator. This is another improvement in your power generation and being more space efficient with that. And because it takes up such a large part of your lair, you want to be as space efficient as possible. So I say take the fusion generator to be able to get that extra efficiency. After that, you can go for the level 4 criminal network, so you have that final level available to you. Okay, let's compare the step up between Tier 3 and Tier 4 on the criminal networks, again here in South America. So at Tier 3, we're making $700,000 at the cost of 3 biologists, 25 intel, and an hour and 45 minutes. Out of a Tier 4, we can spend 6 quantum chemists, 2 hours and 15 minutes, 30 intel to make $1,250,000. So it is a step up in the total money take, and it is a step up in how much you are making per minute, but it is way, way more expensive in terms of the advanced minions types. These 6 quantum chemists, they're gonna take forever to train. So because of that, I don't find myself putting the Tier 4 criminal networks absolutely everywhere. I have them in a few key spaces, and I will use their schemes when I have those minions available, but I don't want to completely replace all of my Tier 3 criminal networks either, because this is how I can use some of those easier to train minion types and still make an enormous amount of money. Next, out of tier 4, we're looking at rifles. Big step up in terms of your guard's efficiency. Just as a reminder, the rifle racks do not completely replace the pistol racks that you have before. The pistols are available to everybody besides the martial arts masters, and then the rifles are only available to the mercenaries and the hitmen. So to be able to give your guards ranged weapons, you're still going to need the pistol racks. Outside of that, tier 4 doesn't have anything too interesting. The improvement here for more minions, absolute garbage. Upgrading your genius here, pretty negligible at this point in the game. You're probably not using them in too many fights. If you're playing as Ivan and you're really playing as him and putting him through all of the combats, then grab this just to have the extra peace of mind of giving him a little bit higher vitality. Being able to have protocol kill is fine to start telling your guards to kind of automatically run combat so you can kind of micromanage other aspects or maybe spend time on the world map. Over here on the lair, compact lockers is really not that much of an upgrade. Once you have your lockers in place to reach the cap of 300 minions, that space is not killing you. If you want to be more space efficient in terms of your barracks, then go for it. Advanced security stations are nice, but again, just an incremental improvement. Then we have a whole set. All the deception minion upgrades are here for each of their 3 stats. So if you're going to prioritize between these, go for the deception minions maximum morale, because this is their most important stat. That's what gets sapped by them talking to agents and tourists. So being able to keep that as high as possible is going to be what helps them stay on the job longer. If they're going to be working items, smarts is also useful. The deception minion vitality is really negligible because they don't fight, so you don't care too much about that one. Over here on the global operations, again, boosting the signal, absolute garbage. Having clever disguises, lowering the heat, the amount that heat builds up at your criminal networks, pretty negligible. I have had saves where I've researched it and gone all the way, and I don't feel like it improves your experience on the world map all that much. The computer array is fine if you want to really improve your control room, but the computer console that we got all the way back in tier 1 is pretty space efficient, and getting a bunch of them together is going to be able to give you enough intel to run schemes, pretty much everything that you need. So that upgrade I don't see as super important, especially because it overlaps with getting the holographic globe, which is going to give you both signal strength and intel. So I kind of see that you're going to pick one or the other here out of these researches. Level 5, you have the most advanced technology open to you. What do you grab first? You grab ultimate mining techniques. It's the most useful, being able to give you more expansion options within your base, extend some of those rooms now that you have these extra items in rooms that you initially built pretty small, or just you want to be able to add these kind of services around clusters of jobs for minions in rooms that you've kind of otherwise built yourself into a corner in. Then being able to pick up the ultimate mining techniques is going to make your life a lot easier. Same thing can be said for the Mega Safe. You want to have a large nest egg saved in the vault for when you want to do a large expansion project, or if you want to be able to go a certain span of time without running money-making schemes if you're using those regions for other kind of missions out of the campaigns or side stories, whatever. Getting the Mega Safe is the most significant improvement for your vault. So here at the vault, you can have these gold pallets that are giving you an extra 2,000 space of storage. You can have these safe racks, which are giving you 4,000 space of storage. And then you can get the Mega Vault or the Mega Safe that gives you 10,000. This is finally a super space efficient money storage item. It only takes a tiny space, and if you build it, let me bring up the menu. So if you're bringing it up, it does have to be built up against a wall, but it only takes a 1x1 space, and then you have to have 1 space of access. And that's it. It is so much more efficient than any of the other items. Do note, it costs 5 power. That might seem strange, and it caught me off guard the first time, so I was smacking down a ton of these everywhere, and suddenly I realized I was out of power. I was like, how is this possible? What's happened? Well, it's because these cost power. So you do have to factor in, like, they are super space efficient, but they're going to require an addition to your power generator room. Next item we rush is the Brainiac Machine, improving Science Minion Smarts. This is going to complete our set of items that are improving each of the specialized minion types' most important stat. So for the guards, it was the Super Serum Machine, improving their vitality. For the Deception minions, it was improving their morale. And for the scientists, it's improving their smarts, having them be able to work much longer at whatever job you have them running. Most particularly research, but they can run specialized settings on different items, say in your control room, and so again, having higher smarts for them, really useful. The cloning machine here could have an honorable mention. Improving the basic worker minion vitality to 100 instead of 50 is going to mean that if you're having fights where your worker minions are kind of getting in there in mobs against the agents, they're going to survive a lot more often, which is wonderful. Otherwise, tier 5, we get the final improvement on the henchman, also really nice. Final improvement for your genius, that's fine. Out of the global operations here, the holographic globe is in this tier just because it's so expensive, but it unlocks before you get the quantum chemist. So I see it more as a level 4 upgrade, and it's not like super groundbreaking. Neither of these are very good. The construction depot is good if you are building a base that you are trying to use up all the space possible. Otherwise, you don't really need it because in the mid and late game, you don't care if construction takes a little while. I will say these final traps are incredible, but again, like I said at the beginning, none of the traps are research that I really feel like you need to rush for at the expense of some of these other improvements that are going to give you a much more significant quality of life improvement in your base. So there you go. Those are all the research projects that I think are the most important to grab as soon as possible when you have new tiers of research unlocked. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, comment down below what research projects you've enjoyed the most and what you would potentially advise people to do differently than what I ended up saying, and subscribe if you want to see more from me. Thank you guys for watching and have a good one.